because I'm on another meeting. There you go.
We are now.
Okay, so I will officially call the meeting to order. It is 6:03. Is there anyone from the public? I'm not sure who's running IT.
I'm not seeing any attendees or hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So the minutes from January 25th meeting were circulated. I believe, Peter, you had some comments.
Yeah, I did a little word smoothing on the presentation of the Oak Hills. You know, a lot of taking out a few ands and a few does, and just to try to tie a few things together. I don't know if I have to officially have to read them, but I sent them to Eileen, so nothing changes the context.
Okay, did anyone else have anything they wanted to add in terms of the minutes? Okay, so then I move to approve the meeting minutes from January 25th.
As amended.
As amended. Anyone second that?
I second it.
Thank you. Okay, Paul, did you want to brief us on the capital tree planting program? If there is anything new to report on?
Basically, it's the same amount of, and I can share the screen, it's the same projects that we had last month. We had approximately 31 trees that we were looking at doing. And from that group, basically, it was whatever else that Cindy may have had. I know there were some new ones that came in.
So then I guess we should turn the floor over to Cindy. Did you want to?
Well, as I told Paul, I guess he tried to call me the other day and I was at work, so I texted him back that, well, I thought that I had till March, April. So honestly, with my business only open 2 weeks, I have not had a chance to get to it.
No, not a problem at all. You definitely have time to put together some kind of a list. I guess, do we have maybe a number of people who, or a number of trees that were being requested?
Right now, we had 31. We had 31. I'll share the screen from the last month's.
That's okay.
information.
Oh. No, I was just going to say that I know we've gotten a lot of requests in since this last screen, so this information is dated. We had 31 requests already, and I would say that we probably have gotten about another, I want to say dozen, but Paul, can you take that off the screen? Because I can't see the other people with that on there. It's pinned on you. Thank you. Sonia, for example, one of the requests that Sonia submitted, do you remember how many trees was on one of those?
One of them was the request to continue with the arborvitaes going around Sono Gardens. And I just put 10 plus because I don't know how many it would be because that was determined by the committee on the Madison Street side. And I figured we would do the same on the Monroe Street side. So I just put 10 plus.
Perfect.
And then the other one was for just one.
Okay, I just
Newton
wanted to
Avenue.
get a sense because I know that even though we may have only gotten about 8 or so more documents,
Mhm.
each one of those documents does not
multiple.
necessarily represent exactly
One
just
tree,
one tree.
exactly. Exactly.
So we have a request for 31 from what Paul showed us last month. And I would say we probably have about another 18 to 20 on top of that. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at for the spring. So, but Cindy, absolutely no worries at all. You know, we eventually envision a chart with, you know, number of requests, you know, number of trees per request, just so we can have an idea of how many trees were being requested to plant in town, how many we can actually plant based on our budget. And then we'll be able to see, you know, what we have left over maybe for the next season. But also we want to keep track of our boots on ground. You know, every time we get a request, people go out and look at the site and make determinations about the type of tree that can go there and staking the property and all of that. And so it's just doing some record keeping on the amount of time that's also invested in some of these requests, if that makes sense. So not looking for anything, you know, flowery right now. We know you're super busy. Just wanted to have an idea. Yeah, Peter, sorry.
So have we seen an influx of individual requests based on the recent article in the Hour?
Yes, as a matter of fact, 2 of the emails that I got mentioned that, well, one of them mentioned it and the other one I asked them how they found out about us, and then they told me it was because of the article in the Hour.
Because although that's really great for outreach, it steps away from our strategy a little bit to consolidate and be very public about places we plant. So we just have to be cognizant of what we can afford to do and where we get more sort of, you know, gain. And to that point, Sonia, you know, the arborvitaes, I know the neighborhood, but you know, is there potential to mix a deciduous shade tree or 2 with that arborvitae planting? Because
We did some last year, and whatever we can do, we will appreciate for sure. But we did a combination last year.
Okay, because a main objective here is about sequestering heat gain and getting the tree canopies up high. So the arborvitae are there on the list, but they're sort of providing privacy where we're looking to put shade on the street.
Yep, nope, we did a combination last year as well.
Okay, so maybe we look at that request and say, maybe there's 1 or 2 more deciduous goes in there with that.
Yep.
Sure, no, that sounds great. Thank you. And then Peter, if you know, you already have the floor, if you want to go into Oaks Hill Park planning restoration plan.
Okay, I don't know, Paul, if you're comfortable sharing the plant list, but we did
Which one would you
modify
like?
the one that has the Ilex
Chart.
opaca on it. I
And
sent
the
you,
chart or the aerial?
well, the plan I sent recently with the chart they're updated. So
Okay.
the plan has not changed. Jeff, you saw that last meeting. I don't think we have anyone else on the public side participating tonight. So we didn't modify the plan. We basically worked a little bit with Audrey and took Jeff's comments into account during last meeting, and we solidified the plant list. You know, we've got right now, I've got 3 black gum trees, Nyssa sylvatica, 2 Quercus bicolor, swamp white oaks, 2 Redmond American lindens. You know, these are all good pollinating trees. Kept the Cornus Florida, specified the Appalachian Spring, which the National Park Service feels is a little bit more resistant to the disease vectors for the flowering dogwoods. We've still kept on the American crabapple, which is a new tree. I haven't used it before, but let's give it a shot. It should, you know, it's not a typical ornamental crabapple, which has a lot of disease vectors going on it. There was a little bit, Audrey had made a comment that there were Norway spruce we took out. They were actually white pines that had come down under the power lines. We were going to put back a couple Norway spruce to the outside, about 50 foot away. So it wasn't that they were that close. I've actually changed that to use of our quiz plant tree of today, of this week, which no one, by the way, responded to. The pine tree we sent you a photo of, I sent a photo out, was the Pinus flexless. If you actually want to take a look at it, it's in Matthews Park to the south end of the mansion. So I put that on the list in lieu of the Norway spruce because the tree grows to 30 or 50 foot. It's a very soft wooded tree in sense of its flexibility, so it doesn't have much breakage in the winter storms, which is worrisome with a white pine. And 2, it's far enough away with the overhead wires where it should not be affected at all. We've solidified the shrub materials a little bit to keep the chokeberry, which is a low mound chokeberry, only grows to 2 or 3 feet at most. Added in a New Jersey tea, which blooms a little bit late in the season to sort of elongate the flowering times for the pollinators, and kept in, or actually changed out the dwarf 9-bark for the Clethra alternifolia summer sweet. Pretty durable plant. I do have a drainage culvert there, so it might actually work better. I did keep in the Cornus moss and the witch hazel. both early flowering trees. I think they'd be quite welcome in the golf course. These materials are all very durable materials. They don't take any pesticides or herbicides for care, which is part of the objectives and concern raised by Oak Hills, the Nature Conservancy there. And we did add a small amount of understory ferns. I'd like to say, I think Jeff had recommended that last time, staying away from herbaceous materials other than the ferns, because we just don't think that the staff right now at Oak Hills can really manage that kind of ground cover. Whereas the ferns will naturalize and they resist the weed growth fairly well. So we've come close to a plant list that, Paul's going to start putting some numbers to, and something that we really can start negotiating with Eversource on. As far as the planting plan, it'll be laid out on the field. I mean, it's all geared and all quantified based on the square footage we're showing on that planting plan. Not that I see the planting plan on the screen, Paul. I see your files.
Paul, I don't know if you realize none of us can see the planting list. If you can just pull that down, because we were looking at your file list this whole time.
It's a good thing at least I was always.
Good thing you remembered everything, Peter.
How about this?
There
There you go.
There it is. So, that is not a shy list. It's an extensive planting. It is likely that the city and we will have to fess up a little bit. Getting in the ground covers, there's soils management care, that's part of this deal. So this is a substantial plant. It's not shy. It also, I'm hoping, will introduce a new, slightly different way of thinking about the way we plant an understory, which is naturalistic, although not, it's not a nature trail. Nor is it ornately ornamental. So it's what we call a naturalistic planting. It's a little more sort of Olmstedian, if you will. It's a little softer, a little less look at me and showy. It really is quite a soft plant, but also using materials that are fairly native and fairly durable, that don't take a great deal of hands-on care. So we'll
I'll go
see.
back here for you. You want?
Yeah, I think that's a great theme, good pollinator support, disease-resistant natives. I'm excited to see some witch hazel there if we could get it. So, but yeah, it's an extensive list, but why not shoot for the stars and see what they're willing to give us and see if the city is willing to support some of what's not covered by Eversource. Why not?
Right, so on that plan, the orange circles would be the witch hazel. They're the lowest of the large shrubs directly under the wires. To the outside, you'd start going with the Cornelian cherry, and the pink would be the dogwoods and a mix of the dogwood and the crabapple. The evergreens are 50 foot away, they're quite far away, and then deciduous trees as well. So it has a lot to do with filling in that gap and introducing things that might work long-term all the way to Phyllis Street. I did have a short email with Audrey that the introduction of lower herbaceous materials added down the line, when we actually think there might be a volunteer group that can sustain that, is certainly welcome. But from our stance right now, would be involvement that, community groups have to really support, just because of the ability of Norwalk public staff, Norwalk maintenance staff to be able to handle this. Without going to weed, because if it goes to weed, we lose it.
Right.
We don't want mugwort in the park. So.
Right. Great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for all the time and effort you've put towards this project.
We'll just keep
All right,
going.
is everybody okay with this then? If everybody's all right with it at this point, then I'll start talking with Eversource.
Yep, go for it, Paul.
Okay.
I'm going to hear them scream from here.
Do you have a
Awesome,
timing for that,
awesome.
or that hasn't started yet? Like timing of planting installation, or that's the next step?
The next step is negotiating with Eversource to see if I can get them to pay for the whole thing and how much they will. And then at that point, depending upon what the answers are from that, trying to get the planting done. And the goal is to get it done this spring.
I mean, and then how much of our budget we, can allocate, or park and rec tree planting budget. It is a park. It's a park.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you so much. It looks like the next agenda item are grant applications. I don't have much to report on. Last week I submitted an LOI, which just is fancy jargon for a letter of intent. And the LOI was due as a step one. And any LOIs that are accepted, you're then invited to apply to this particular grant. It's a NEEF grant for $100,000. So I put together the letter of intent. I sent it out last week, and fingers crossed, if they like what I had to say, we'll get an invitation to apply to the grant. So that doesn't mean we get it, but at least we've narrowed down our field and we're invited to apply to it. The other grant that LOI was submitted last week. There is a grant that's due in March that is through our DEEP for Connecticut. I don't know, Paul, if you realize that that grant is a matching grant.
Yes.
You did, okay. I just want to make sure that the city is aware that if we do get that grant, that we're required. So not all, some grants are straight funding grants where they say, hey, here's $10,000, $50,000, go for it. And then there are some grants that require some level of matching, some 25%, some 50%. This particular one that we're looking at is a 50% matching grant. So whatever dollar amount we request, the city has to be able to back up if we should get it. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with that. That grant is for a maximum of $10,000. And then there's a third grant that I'm applying for. It is a very small project grant, it's called. It's also from the same DEEP Department for Connecticut. However, this particular one is about $2,000 maximum, and it's geared towards an event or some type of like tree liaison training, like something like that. So it's a small grant, you know, it's still something that we can use it to plant a couple of trees. But they really wanted to see some kind of community activity with it. And so sometimes those smaller grants are a low-hanging fruit that we can kind of grab onto, apply to, and get, and then use that community event as a springboard to letting people know about our tree program and our planting efforts as a whole. Okay, so that's all I have to report on. I'll be working on those over the next couple of weeks, and you know, nothing we could do after that except cross our fingers and toes, right?
Eric,
Yes.
can you send me a copy of the letter of intent so I can just send it down the hall to and let the mayor's office and them know what we're working on? That way that we keep them in the loop and nobody overlaps with anything.
We can talk about that after. The letter of intent was due last week, so there's no chance for anybody to duplicate those efforts. If they didn't send it in on time, there's no consideration for that grant. So we
Okay.
can talk about that. We can talk about that later. And if Paul, I think you had some updates with the growth award.
Yeah, I'm gonna share an email with you that we basically got the other day related to the growth award, congratulating us on the 2021 growth award from the Arbor Day Foundation and DEEP. This year, they went through and they reviewed all of the growth awards first. And we're waiting to hear back now on the Tree City, but there's probably a pretty good chance, but we have officially been notified we received the growth award for 2021.
Well, that's fantastic news. Congratulations. How many years in a row is that?
For the growth award, it'll be 16 consecutive. If we get to Tree City, it'll be 18, and the difference between the 2 years is because you have to be a Tree City USA for 2 before you can apply for a growth award.
We got
Awesome.
that covered. We got that covered.
We're good, we're good. Congratulations on
great.
that. Yeah, you know, we knew this was going to be a super short meeting. We didn't have a whole lot on the agenda. But without, you know, jinxing us, does anyone have any other business?
As you shake your head, no.
Oh, Jeff, we need a report from Jeff. We need a report from Jeff.
Tree
Oh,
Alliance.
Tree Alliance.
Jeff, absolutely. If you have something to add, I'm sorry you weren't on the agenda, so I just assumed maybe you didn't have anything going on right now, but please.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Sure.
We don't have too much as far as tree planting news because it's been winter, but we do have, we have been moving forward with the NIFWIF grant, partnered with the Land Trust and the River Valley Trail. We got $1,000 for education materials and a tree planting. So we're aiming to do, I think 3 plantings, and we have to schedule them out and just coordinate them with the nature hikes. And then we've also applied, Mike Yosek applied for the CTDEEP grant, Connecticut Urban Forest Council, which I think is somewhat up to $37,000 or something like that.
Yeah, if it's the $37,000 grant, that's the climate change grant. That's in 2 parts. Yeah, I actually am on the review committee for that.
Nice. Yeah. So, you know, we've applied for that and waiting to hear back. And then just wanted to say that tomorrow's Fairfield County Giving Day, Norwalk Tree Alliance will be a part of that. There's a couple of different awards. If you're feel inclined to donate, for example, let me just pull it up real quick. If we donate the first hour, the people who have the most unique individual donors wins $2,500 added on to whatever donations they accumulate. And it's the same thing towards the last hour of the day. Same thing, you know, the most unique donors within those time slots, you get additional prize money for that. So that could be, you know, $5, $10 donation, just as many people as you know, or can donate, those individual hits are worth a lot. So it's not necessarily the money that's donated, it's just the reach. So just informing.
That's great. And you know, Jeff, when you get the dates for tree plantings and those kinds of things, definitely make sure you share with me, especially if it's within the time frame of a semester, which is how I, you know, live my life by semesters. So if it's within a semester, then I give extra credit for my students to get out there and help. And, you know, they're out there planting trees all the time. So, you know, they're good, strong, young college students.
Yeah, that's great. We'll take as much help as we can get.
And
Thank
that's
you.
how they feel about the extra credit. So
I'm sure.
it's a win-win.
That's good. So-
Awesome.
So.
Any other business?
So just want to throw this out there. I think a couple
Yeah.
of weeks ago, I sent you a letter written to Planning and Zoning in 2007 regarding zoning issues where there are huge holes in the ability to be effectual in enforcing tree planting in proposed projects. I think you all had gotten that. I hadn't gotten any response. So I was just wondering, you know, thoughts. Right? This is one of the areas, you know, to beat an old drum since 2007 at least. The city has been not really proactive in the ability to enforce tree planting in a organized or perhaps a prescribed way through zoning, other than review of zoning, you know, planning documents that don't really have requirements that I'm aware of. I have not gone back to see if any of those zoning regs have been put in place. So that's
What I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say zoning and planning merged since then. So some of that may have changed. And then we have the ordinance. And I'm not sure. Yeah.
The ordinance has nothing to do with this. This is about the zoning requirements
Okay.
Literally, if you have 20 spaces, you require one tree. I don't know that NOAC's ever adopted that. I really have not had the chance to look. So I guess perhaps if you take a look at that, some response, perhaps there's a subcommittee formed that could be with a tree liaison member, myself or someone else.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a full committee issue, but I think we need to dust it off to be effectual in one of those areas where we really haven't been active. And this comes into enforcement of trees being cut all over. It's just one more piece of an enforceable, document that we can sink our teeth into.
I mean, Peter, if you're willing to spearhead that, I can, send some information out to the liaisons and see who would be interested in learning and working with you for sure. If you wouldn't mind to send me a couple of sentences so that I can explain to them a little bit better how they would be involved or to what extent or what they would be learning, that would be great. And I think we should be able to find somebody. Why
mean,
not?
I don't even know if you get student credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
it takes a little footwork. It takes going through the ordinance and just going through it. And just my time gets short. So Paul, I don't know if you have any other suggestions because you're the city end of this, but
The thing I would do is talk with Steve Kleppen as the director of planning and zoning. He would be the person to talk to see what they've got on the books now and what they can do for requiring the planting and then enforcing it if it's either not been done or been removed after it's been CO'd.
okay, yeah. To be honest, when we initiated this, Mike Green was still in play, and it was a different politic scenario. So things have changed. So yes, I just wanted to throw it out there because we hadn't talked about it for a while. And it's one of our strategic objectives. If you dust off that objective list as well, that's next meetings.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you just send me a few sentences, I will rally to get you either a student or a liaison.
Liaison would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the liaison would be my first choice, but so not to leave it, completely hanging. If we don't get a liaison, then I'll look for a student.
Great.
That'll be plan B. Okay, great. Guys, thank you so much. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Awesome.
Field work tomorrow. You have to pack up. Head to New Jersey.
Nice. Safe trip.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.